You know, they say that when something comes your way, there's a reason for it, there's a purpose for it, and you should take advantage of it because you may appreciate something you didn't appreciate when you was growing up. This is one of those things. A few hours ago, I don't know how, I can't even explain how this thing surfaced, but a few hours ago, I came across a book that reminded me of something else that I absolutely can't stand. This was a movie, and the movie was named Matilda. Now, I'm just gonna go out and straight. This film I hated with a passion. Uh, the film really, I didn't know what the hell it was trying to get on. I just know that the film was dark, too dark for kids, and even so, too silly for even adults to like. That's how I see it. The only thing that was saved in this movie was Marla Wilson's performance as Matilda. She was excellent in this movie, and she tried desperately hard to carry this film. But on a whole, this film it really didn't strike me as a good film. I actually did not like this film, just for the sake of being that almost no one in this film, exception of Marla Wilson's character, was likable in this movie. I'm aware now. Let's get them clear. I'm aware they have a huge cult following. It's the same cult following as I was when I was a kid when I saw Return to Oz. I love Return to Oz. It was scary. It was scary. It was frightening. It was adventurous, and I loved every minute of it. The scenery, how they portray Oz the right way. It was very, very fun. Yet critics hated this film, and I was like, as a kid, why did they hate this movie? This movie is actually a classic, and it still is. It still holds up fine to this day, and it's funny because this film was hard to find at one point. When the year 2000 came up, I went looking for this movie, and this movie was nowhere to be found. I mean, this movie was out of print. The only way I could have got it, I had to get the Canadian copy. It's the same movie, but it was made in Canada and had the Canada rating, and I paid a hell of a lot of money. I think I paid $25 for the video cassette. Yeah, that was VHS. I didn't pay for the DVD. I got the video cassette, but boy, was it worth it. I got that, and I got the Transformers original theatrical version because they got alternated when it came up, when it returned to DVD form, and I am able to get the Canadian version, which has the original version, and I got that, and I got this movie, and it was beautifully done. I actually enjoyed it, but that's why I pretty much understand the cult following, because even though it wasn't my taste, others who sees this film as a fun film actually enjoy it. My sister loves this film. I don't. I mean, that's just how it is. I just don't see the thrill of it. And I pretty much put that in my list. I'm working on a list called the top 25 movies I simply despise. I'm actually almost complete. The only thing I'm trying to do is get like some images, like posters, old posters, so they can match what I'm saying, because that way people have a better understanding of where I'm coming from with that list. So what does this have to do with anything? Well, let's just say that I think the gods of the movie world wanted to bring my attention, because I was walking home and there was a book on top, not inside the trash can, right on top of the trash can. It was nicely placed, and to my surprise, it was this book. It was Matilda, and it caught my attention because when I walked past, something told me to stop and just look at the book, because in my area, which pissed me off a little bit, by the way, a lot of people throw out old books, some new books. I actually got two books that somebody threw out that I actually got. I'm actually planning to read it and do a review on it, but this book, when I saw the title, I was like, wow. Talk about a coincidence. You can tell this has been read a few times because it's taped up. This is an old book, but hey, I didn't really much care about it. I knew it was based on a book before. I just didn't pay no attention to it because the movie was bad. I didn't want to even look into it. There are some movies that that I have seen that it was horrible. I can't stand Harriet the Spy. There was nothing really savable about that film. It was just boring. But I knew there was a book out because I saw the book. They was pushing the book before the movie, and I just never bothered into it. But this one is an exception because unlike Harriet the Spy, the Tilda is very loved by a lot of people and very hated by others. It's like it's in the middle. You either love it for what it was or you hate it for what it was. I'm on the other side. I hate it for what it was. But I am willing. I will say that straight up. I'm going to read this book. I already read like a few parts of the chapter, and I got to tell you, it's very interesting. It's more of an introduction towards the character. It explains the family, how they really don't want her. They look at her as some kind of a flake where they just gonna throw when she gets old enough. You can just throw out kind of cruel, kind of rude family members. In the book, it explained that she really is extraordinary. She has a very unique ability. And by the way, this has been very well illustrated. I actually like the old style illustration. It's kind of cool. I actually think this is kind of neat. And it's so far explaining that from the time she was like 2, she had very special abilities. She taught herself how to read at a very, very young age. When she was 3. That's amazing. And for some reason, I'm actually getting into this. I'm really liking this book. So much so that once I finish, depending on how this book is portrayed, how this ends, I may go back and revisit the movie. I only saw the movie one time, guys. Keep in mind, I only saw that film once. That's how pissed off I was. And the only impact that film really had for me was Marla Wilson's performance. She was great, and I wish, and I was really pissed off more of her agent, because her agent really did not try and let her excel her talents to more serious roles. Instead, I had to see a teenage Marla Wilson playing a film catered towards 5-year-olds in that god-awful Thomas and the Magic Railroad. And yes, that's also in my films that I absolutely despise, and I'll explain why I actually despise that. But if you've seen that, if you're an adult and you had children who've seen this movie and you have to sit through this film, I feel for you, bro, because I know that I can feel your pain. This was nothing like the TV show. I mean, it was absolutely horrible. I mean, it was horrible. And that pretty much cost Marla Wilson her career. That one film, she has not been back into a movie since. But from what I read about her, she's actually done good for herself, and I'm actually happy that she's doing very, very well. She graduated college, and she's doing her own thing. And people have asked her whether she wants to go back into movies, and I think she said she doesn't really miss it. So that's always good to hear, and hear that she's actually didn't let that bring it down. So, but anyway, this was that movie, the book I have in my hand. It did not give me a good impression. But I gotta tell you, after reading a few pages, I'm very interested in this character. I'm very, very. It's very, very. The writing is very good. That's what I'm saying. Right now, I'm on page 12 right now. And for what I understood, that she's asking her father if he can buy her a book, and her father's like, no, we got television, we don't need books. You're being too spoiled. I'm only in a few pages in, and already I can't stand this son of a bitch. So I mean, come on, man. The girl wants to read. This is a 3-year-old girl asking you for a book, and you can't give her a book. I mean, forget about even that. Don't you understand? 3-year-olds don't normally ask for books like that. You're asking, you're saying no, and you don't even notice that your own daughter is not normal. I mean, once she start, if a 3-year-old asks me to read the encyclopedia, that's when it's time to start doing some medical checks and see if how big her IQ is, because that right there should have been a green light saying that, hey, something's going on here. But for what I've been reading here, you have a mother who's going to bingo almost every day. You have the older brother, which I can't really say too much about the older brother. It's very, very tricky. I can't hate him, but there's not too much to say about him. He's a few years older, so I guess he's babysitting her. You have the father who's doing God knows what, but they're basically being neglected. Automatically, you can tell just by what I'm reading, they're being neglected. And I am curious just from these pages, and I'll tell you why it makes it very, very curious, because I'm very, very strict on certain books. If you don't let me visualize what I'm reading, if I can't get it in my head or see these characters after, I think, one or two chapters, I will not follow the book. I will set it down, put it aside. I may pick it back up, I may not, but it has to grab me, and it has to grab me quick. That goes for any book: science fiction, crime novels, biographies. You need to make me see what you're talking about. If your words are not, if I can't visualize your words, I'm not going to read you. That's just how it is, and that's for everybody. People are not going to, tolerate, sitting through a boring book that doesn't, they can't really give a clear sense of vision. But this book, 12 pages in, I'm already hooked into it. I'm already into it. So that's a good book. The author of this book is Ronald Dahl. I hope I'm saying your name right. Dahl. That's his last name. Ronald Dahl. And the illustration, by the way, classic illustration. I actually like the illustration of this book. It's done very, 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 very good. Illustrated by Quentin Blank. I'm very, very impressed. Granted, it's not the artwork that we come to explain, but seeing this kind of work reminds me a lot of the old-fashioned, comic strips slash sketches that I have seen when I was little. And what's importantly, it's not to the point where it's distracting. I'm still reading it, but it's not like I'm, making this be the primary, focus. So that's always a good thing. So yeah, I'm gonna read this book. I'm gonna give my own personal perspective of this book, but most importantly, if this book is great, if this book made such an impact, I will give another look at Matilda. That is my promise to all the Matilda fans here, that I will give another look, another review of Matilda, a second chance review, if I can say it, only because I have read the book, and and by reading the book, I'm only going to tell you this: I will probably understand more on why people actually like it. So is it going to be a compare and contraction? Yeah, it probably will be, but most importantly, because I read the book, I can pretty much now understand what Danny DeVito was trying to put on screen. Would I change my rating because it got 1 star for me? Yeah, maybe, or maybe not. It really all depends on how much of an impact it does with me. If anything else, at least I'm coming in there knowing that I read a very, very good book. And I think that's pretty much why people like this book, like the movie, because those who actually read the book, followed the book, actually knows what was being said, more so than the person who just came in there and watched the film and have no clue what the hell's going on and considered this to be not only insulting to the intelligence but just a bad film. Like I said, I heard about the book, but only after I saw the movie. So I didn't know that was actually based on the book until after I saw the movie, and I didn't really bother to attempt to go out to read the book because the movie to me was so bad. But I'm willing to give that movie a second chance if and only if this book keeps my interest as I'm reading it. So I'm reading this book. I'm going to give it a shot. So far, so good. I will pretty much do a little bit of micro review on it. But obviously the gods wanted me to read this, and I'm going to read it. And maybe it just may give me a smile on my face. But until then, this is J77 saying you have a nice weekend.